Good morning. Words matter. The words that are spoken, they have meaning. They have definition. They have significance. See, words can build, they can motivate, they can create. Words hold power, but it's only the person who speaks those words that knows what the meaning is behind them. And that's what this case all comes down to. There were three speakers: Leon Jacob, Valerie McDaniel, and Officer Duran. They are all speaking. They're all trying to tell their story that they want to be told. They're all fighting for the control, for that authority, to give definition to what they want to happen. And finally, you will see throughout the entirety of this trial the one egregious efforts that Officer Duran went to just to force his narrative. Now, as my co-counsel George Parham just introduced, my name is Matthew Pospisil, and together, me and George stand here today proud to represent Leon Jacob. Leon, do you want to say it fast? Mr. Jacob here, he's a Houstonian, he's a PhD, and above all, he's a father. Now, like many of us today, like many of us here today, Leon's made some mistakes in life. But just because he's made those mistakes, some things that you will not agree with, does not make him guilty of solicitation of capital murder. You see, as Timon even said today, Leon found him in a situation that was spiraling out of control. And he struggled to regain that control. And he did it the only way he knew how, by using his words, by putting power into his words to state what he wanted to happen and make that happen. But to finally fully understand exactly how we arrived where we have to go back and retell the story. Back in early 2013, Leon was in Pittsburgh, and him and Megan Veracruz began to fall in love. At first, it was an overwhelming attraction, a spark, a connection. And even though Megan was married at the time, she quickly realized it was Leon she wanted to be with. In just a short few months, she found herself packing up her bags, leaving her life, leaving her family, to move back down to Houston to live with Leon and file for divorce. And now, like most couples when they first started, they were happy, they were in love. They had a great relationship. They had their occasional fights, but the Jacob family went out of their way to make her feel welcome, to feel connected, and feel like she belonged. Now, as their fights started to grow, they started to grow more often. Leon would lose his patience a little bit. Megan wasn't always the sweetest. And that would continue, but they still remained happy. Nevertheless, they persisted in love. Until one fight finally pushed Megan over the edge, and she decided she wanted to end the relationship. And then 3 weeks later, you will find out that she did file for assault charges against him, and that those charges were eventually dismissed. See, Leon was stuck there. He was left. He was confused. He was heartbroken. He didn't understand what happened. The love of his life just left. He wanted her back. He wanted to reconcile that relationship. So he did what he could. He tried to get back in contact with Megan, but his pleas of love went unanswered. She ignored him. She refused to communicate back. When that failed, he decided to reach out to the friends they've made together, to ask them for help. Can you please communicate? Can you please get us back together? I love her. I need her in my life. They refused to help, so he reached out to his family friend, as they said. It was Tom Thurlow. He put him in touch with his niece, Laura. Laura will testify, and she will tell you that Leon approached her about his love of his life, Megan, and how he wanted her back in his life, and how he needed her. She'll get up here and tell you that despite his pleas for help, Laura just led him down this path of not doing anything. She tried to look up the criminal record of the assault case that was eventually dismissed, but decided not to help him any further, while leading him down this rabbit hole that she was helping. She made up this story about how she followed her to the rodeo and was having people watch her at all times. Complete fabrication that Leon thought something was actually happening. She was making efforts, and she was doing nothing. Again, Leon was stuck, left confused and heartbroken, and not understanding why he could not just make contact. Eventually, Laura decided that she was tired of trying to help Leon and decided to put him back in touch with somebody else. And that is how Zach gets involved. Now, Zach will get up here, and he's going to tell you that he was a hero. He's an Army veteran and a Purple Heart recipient, and he could not stand idly by while this lady, a damsel in distress, needed his help. But the reality is, Motaz is nothing but a con man. He saw a situation take advantage of somebody like Leon, who had money, who had power, and to steal from him. He'll get up here and tell you that he took money from Leon with no intention of ever doing anything he helped out with, or even giving that money back. The reality is Zach saw the opportunity to make his own fortune, and jumped on it. He conned Leon out of this money. He told him this story about how he's going to arrange a meeting at a hotel to have a sit-down conversation between Megan and Leon. But he never did any of that to actually make any of that happen. And as those efforts that Leon thought Zach was investigating for him to find Megan, to put him back in contact, he quickly realized that he needed to escalate this matter to make things more intense, to prove his own con further. You're going to find out that it wasn't Leon who wanted any harm to come to Megan, but in fact it was Zach who started up the idea of, we'll stage a car crash. You need her to get out of town? We'll stage a car crash. We'll crash into her. We can plant drugs in her car, get her arrested. We can solve your issue a different way than reconciliation. Leon adamantly started at this point in time to repeatedly say, I want no harm to come to Megan. I don't want anything like that to happen. And eventually, Zach decided he wants no more part of this, and he tries to disappear. You're going to find out today that even the cops took 2 weeks to try and locate him as he went off the grid after stealing from Leon. And then once the Houston Police Department got involved through Officer Duran and the undercover investigation, you will finally realize the agenda, the motive, the narration that Officer Duran was trying to make clear. You'll find out in the course of this trial that the Houston Police Department did their due diligence in discovering who the players were involved. They looked up Leon Jacob. They looked up Valerie McDaniel. They realized they were both prominent doctors. They were both successful and well-educated people. They realized that this could be the case that makes their career. You're going to realize that this motive and agenda produced an investigation to where they were forced to make their play. They would try to force these people into making their decisions that they did not want to make. There are plenty of hours of recordings in this conversation between the undercover officers, Leon Jacob and Valerie McDaniel. It's going to be revealed throughout the course of this trial that Leon repeatedly stated, I want nothing to happen to Megan. I want no harm. I just need her to get out of town. And you're going to find out that it was constantly Officer Duran who repeatedly said, we're going to have to kill her. Let me kill her. I need to kill her. I can't get caught with this. I have to kill her. And every time those statements are made, Leon always says, no harm can come to Megan. The truth is in the words with this case. Words are powerful. Words have meaning and significance. The truth is, Leon loved Megan. He didn't want her hurt. He wanted a life with Megan. The reality is, if it wasn't for Officer Duran forcing this agenda, forcing his motive, forcing his own narration of the events transpiring, we wouldn't be here today. If it was not for Officer Duran trying to make this into a television story and force his own narrative, Leon would not be forced here today to tell his story.
All right. Thank you very much.
May I proceed?
You may.
Okay, please report. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I need to make the following comment to you. What we say in opening statement is not evidence and is not considered to be considered by you as evidence in this case. What you will make your decision on in this case is the evidence that comes forth from this witness stand, be it documents, be it live testimony on direct or cross-examination. This portion of the trial is for us to give you an idea, a working idea about what we think the evidence is going to show. And you're not obliged to accept, not obliged to object. This is our viewpoint, much like we told you in voir dire when we picked this jury. I want to go through the timeline of the events, and I want to make sure that everybody can follow. Is that too small for you all? Can you follow? All right. We have a timeline of audio conversations that take place between the undercover agent and Leon Jacobs. On March the 7th, Leon, in conversations with the undercover, can you see? In conversations with the undercover says, all right, I just need her to leave Houston and things are going to be okay. I want her out of Houston. Why? Because he doesn't want her here as a witness against him. And that's something that we have to accept. He wants her gone so that she won't be available to testify. He doesn't say dead. He doesn't say kill. He wants her gone out of Houston. On March the 7th, I prefer that no one gets hurt. I just want her to leave. And I want my legal problems to go away, but you know I told you what it needs. You know whatever you know what I'm talking about. So, on March the 8th, in conversation with the undercover agent, I don't want her hurt. I just want her to stay. Now, I'm going to stop right there and talk to you about what I consider to be common sense. The prosecutor told you that for a period of a number of months, 8, I believe to be exact, that Megan and Leon were very much in love. They were together. They cared for each other. And I think it takes a quantum leap of imagination to think that you turn from a lover to a killer of the person that you love. The feelings are still there. Those feelings don't go away. And I can't foresee of a situation in my experience, and which is not evidence, or in your experience where you care for somebody and you in turn, because that person decides not to be with you, you decide to hire a hitman and kill her. That contradicts, I don't want her hurt, I just want her to go. Go where? Go back to Pittsburgh. The evidence will reflect. I can get another hearing set for that. If she no-shows for that, if she's up in Pittsburgh, she's not here for the hearing, I don't want that. I want this to go away. Everything else goes away if she's not here. That's what I want. All right? Again, on March the 8th. Ever talk again? I don't want that, but I want this to go away. He then says, this is all in conversation with the undercover officer. Well, he doesn't want it to happen to her, Valerie. Right. Do you want it to happen to her? Valerie says, no, not that. On March the 8th, Leon says, I prefer no one gets hurt. I just want her to leave, and I want, if my situation goes away, then this situation goes away. Same agreement. I just want her to leave. I want her to get in the car, pack her, shit up, and go home. So you're going to snatch her and you're going to bring her somewhere and talk to her. That's the plan. I want her just to go. A part of me still loves her. I just want her to go away. I want this case to go away, and just that, that's what I want. And the undercover officer says, we got it, dude. Got it. The last understanding that you'll hear from the witness stand is Leon telling the officer on March the 9th, I want you to call right back before you do anything. Call right back before you do anything. I will call you right back, the undercover says. I will call you right back. Don't go to sleep, all right. put too much risk on us, and she doesn't care about leaving, and that's pretty much it, man. She's dead. She's going so. And Leon's response to that, you'll hear from the stand, because it's going to be part of the transcript, is almost one of shock and surprise. Oh, you did that? You did that already? And you'll hear that testimony both from the transcript as well as live on the witness stand. Ladies and gentlemen of this jury, as I indicated to you, the court read to you an indictment handed down by a grand jury. I think we've told you that the defense does not participate in grand jury proceedings. We're not permitted in the grand jury room unless called by the grand jury as a particular witness. The defendant doesn't have a right to appear in front of the grand jury. Witnesses for the defense do not have a right to appear in front of the grand jury. It is solely a process whereby we in Texas end up going in front of a jury to make a determination of guilt or innocence in our particular case. I want you to remember many of the things that we talked about in voir dire. We talked about the fact that the implication of Valerie taking her own life. How does that impact, in your mind, the guilt or innocence of Leon Jacob, who sits before you today? What do we know going through the mind of Valerie McDaniel at the time she decided to kill herself? Do we know anything about whether or not she was on narcotics? Do we know anything about any statements she may have made? Do we know about any statements she may have made that were recorded?
We're speaking something outside the record that the judge has already ruled on.
Sustained.
Do we, there will be testimony presented to you about Valerie McDaniel and her participation in this episode for which Leon Jacob stands trial. I want you to go back in the jury room after you hear all the evidence, apply the law to the facts as you've decided them to be, and make a determination after you have duly deliberated at the close of the evidence in this case that the state has not met its burden of proof, that the defendant in fact and in law is not guilty of the offenses of solicitation of capital murder. Thank you very much.